Hello, I am Kim's daughter, Olivia, and I feel very awkward to record myself, so don't mind me if this is a uncomfortable intro. But I'm outside because I thought this would be a nice place, a nice scenic background for me for this video. And the purpose of this video is, the reason why I'm recording this video is because my mom has been asking me to speak at your parent group for a long time now, like probably over a year. And I keep saying yes and then canceling. And currently, a couple months ago, I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And I have, so I'm dealing with my health stuff. And one thing I found that's necessary for me is a strict daily schedule. And because that helps me with stress management and time management and getting to bed at the right time. It takes me a long time to wind down for sleep. So the time window that I am comfortable interacting with people ends before your parent group begins. My time window is 8:30 until 5:30. So I did consider like making an exception to go to the parent group, but at this point in my journey, it's not what feels right for me. So I thought that I could record a video and share what I would share if I went to the parent group. And then if anybody has any questions for me or wants to talk to me personally, you can reach out to me on my phone or through email. And I'd be happy to talk with anyone anytime between the hours of 8:30 and 5, including weekends. So now that I've informed you about what I'm doing here and why it's on a recorded video, I'll tell you about my story. So I'm 29. I turned 29 a few weeks ago, and I got sober when I was 23. Before I got sober, I started using mind-altering substances when I was 14. And I can't blame my childhood, but at the time I certainly did. And I see people who are in AA who had perfect upbringings with parents that loved each other and got along and had no financial strain. And I see people in AA who were poor and had parents who were in active addiction. So I just want to say that because I don't think any child's addiction is the parent's fault. So I do remember when I was 14, I sought out cannabis. Was my first drug of choice and my most challenging substance in my entire life. I sought it out when I was 14. I used to I had a best friend at the time, and I said to her, I want to try smoking weed. And I was just curious, I guess, of what life had to offer. And so when I smoked weed for the first time, I felt different, and I ended up developing an addiction to it. I ended up going out with my friends on the weekends and getting drunk and engaging in risky behavior. And, I went to good schools, though, and they taught us about the dangers of risky behavior and drug use. And it didn't reach me. I thought that it would never happen to me. But by the time I was 17, I was smoking weed every day. I was going to college. I went to UMass Amherst. And And that's where I really just descended into active addiction. That's when I started smoking multiple times a day because I had no parental supervision. And I started using psychedelics as well when I could. And then I dropped out after my third semester. I just completely gave up on school. I think that my mind was warped from the psychedelics and the weed all the time and not eating properly and not exercising and just not taking care of myself. So I dropped out of college, and I had this elaborate plan to go on some sort of pilgrimage to India. But 3 days after living with my boyfriend at the time, I moved back in with my dad because things didn't go the way that I thought they would. And anyway, I struggled with active addiction from age 17 to 23. And during that time, if it wasn't for my dad to take pity on me, I would have been I was legally homeless. I had no money. The only thing I could think about was getting high every day. It was maddening. And I would go to bed every night saying to myself, I need to get sober. If I get sober, everything will be better. I might have a chance if I get sober. And then the next morning I would wake up and I would just be obsessed with the next fix. And it was an unsatiable hunger and insatiable, I don't know the word, but my point is that obviously the substances I was seeking were not helping. They weren't the answer, but I didn't know any other way to help myself. And my parents were so mad at me, and they would tell me, you have to get sober, or else you have to stop smoking, or else we're gonna, you need to leave. And so my parents were divorced, and I was living with my dad at the time because my mom had a husband he met me when I was in active addiction. So he was sort of like, she's not coming here. So I would couch surf with friends of mine, and I don't blame my dad for doing that. I almost burned down his house one time because I lit a I lit a candle, and I didn't have a candle holder. So I put it in a pot that was filled with dried sage. So when I left the house and I forgot the candle was lit, the candle burned down to where the pot with the dried sage was, and then all the sage lit on fire, and the house almost burned down. So I was endangering them, I was endangering my dad and my brother by doing that type of thing, but if I was going to give some sort of advice to my parents at the time, I could have been tricked to open up. At the time, I could have been tricked. Well, I don't want to say tricked, but I could have been encouraged. Think of an addict as a scared little kitten. And if you're yelling at it, which you're rightfully so angry with it, it's very reasonable to be at your wit's end with an addict, especially when they're a teenager living in your house. But think of an addict as a small kitten that's terrified. If you're barking at it, it's not going to open up to you. So, I don't know. I mean, first of all, I'm surprised my parents didn't section me. If I was sectioned and locked up, I probably would have gotten sober a long time ago, a long time before I actually did. If someone's endangering you, if your kid's endangering you, I encourage you to consider reporting them. Because the drugs so I work at a recovery center now. I work in recovery, and the drugs that are out and about are not okay. You'd be doing them a favor to lock them up. Seriously. That's my opinion, though. It's my opinion. And I used to say, I would have these moments of clarity, and I would say to my parents, I need to be locked up. I need to go to rehab. Rehab is the reason why, I think it's the reason why I'm alive today. Going to treatment really changed the direction of my life. because I had tried IOP. I went to IOP multiple times, but in my opinion, if you can afford it, residential treatment is the way. That's the step one. Well, my step one was actually going to a mental hospital. I admitted myself. I said I was a danger to myself and others. I went to the ER and I did that, and they locked me up. They sent me to McLean, and I had a great time there. They treated me well. It was clean. We ate 3 times a day, which I was like, whoa, this is nice to do that. I hadn't done that in years, hence my current condition. And so residential treatment was so helpful for me. I ended up being in treatment, I think altogether it was around 2 months. And then I went to a sober house, and that was really a good thing for me. I wanted to go back to my dad's house, and my case manager at rehab, I went to Green Mountain Treatment Center, which is like the best thing I could have ever asked for. I went to 3 different treatment facilities. I went to McLean for inpatient psychiatric care, and then I went to NACAG in Petersham, Massachusetts for like 11 days. And then I went to Green Mountain Treatment Center for a month and a half or so. And then I went straight to a sober house in Vermont. So I went, to a place far away from what I knew. So I didn't know anyone. And I was in a sober community immediately. So my sober house had a requirement to go to 5 meetings a week, 5 AA meetings or other recovery meetings a week. And that's where I that's where I had a social life. So I had a job. I worked full time. And my parents paid for my sober house. And I was there for about a year. And by the end of the time I was at the sober house, that's when I got my first car. And then I moved into an apartment with a sober roommate. He was a gay person who lived in my sober house. So me and him were roommates for a year and a half. And then I made a decision to get a studio. And then stuff went awry with that studio, so I moved in with a friend, and I had a roommate, which was not fun, but she was sober, so that was okay. But I ended up moving out of there after some months into my first real studio apartment, and I've been there for 2 years now, and I just re-signed my lease. And yeah, that's my story with substance use in a nutshell. Although, of course, I could go deeper into everything. And I feel like maybe I should. Like, for example, why I used. I don't really know why I started using, but I kept using because I could not stop. That's the definition of alcoholism. Is 1 is too many, 1,000's not enough. AA really helped me. I don't really know what else to say. I just know that if you want things to change with your kid, then, when you change, a relationship changes. When you change how you're responding to someone, you change the dynamic, you change the conversation. And I think that it's only helpful for an addict to feel like they can talk and be honest, because I can pretty much guarantee you, I think, my opinion is that no addict wants to keep being an addict. It's not fun. It's maddening. And I remember, there was always this faint sadness, deep down inside of my heart, that I felt like I loved my mom so much. And I was sad that I felt like I couldn't talk to her. And I felt like she hated me. And so there was always a little flicker of of love inside of me from my parents. And I feel like the most healing thing is to be able to have your kid be honest with you. So like trying to cultivate that type of atmosphere with them where they can feel safe enough to tell you the truth, because like residential treatment was the best thing that I ever did. That was my turning point in my life. I actually work at a place called the Turning Point now, which is kind of nice. But like AA itself began with two people having a conversation about their addiction. And yeah. So that's I think that's all I have to say for now. And if anyone has any questions, I will gladly talk to you and give you my opinion or my attempt at advice. But I don't know what it's like to be a parent, and I just know that I know that it must be maddening to be a parent of an addict. And yeah, I'm happy that you're all part of this support group and seeking support from people who understand, and that you're talking about the things that are happening. And I hope that you continue to take care of yourself and practice dealing with reality in every day in a way that's a little bit better. And with that, I'm gonna go, and I hope that this was maybe helpful. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day or a night or whenever you're watching this. And maybe we'll talk sometime. Bye.